Yeah, and I will say, a lot of us have been through this over the years, so we know things. Feel free to ask questions just to learn, because a lot of times I've found over the years is you ask something that I just take for granted, so it's good to come up, so don't be afraid to ask any questions and jump in. With that, Jim, you want to start off with?
So, I think we have on the agenda tonight is just general budget overview, which I can save to the end. We'll go through all the town budgets essentially. And then I just want to have Patrick Duchesne's and Building Commissioner Jim Crowley touch upon the zoning articles. That's one of the handouts that were up here. More of what's going on with these articles, what's being proposed, no vote taken tonight. The planning board hasn't even scheduled I don't think they've even received them formally, so we have some time for them to schedule a hearing. I just want to kind of give you a broad overview of what's being proposed, so that's kind of about it. So if you're good with it, we'll get right into
Yeah.
the budget.
Start off with general government. We have Charter Review Committee for $0.
Denny, so, sorry, if everyone didn't grab a copy of this at the front of the table here, this is the detailed budget overview. It's kind of the spreadsheet that Jody and I work off of all the time, so generally, and I should have said this, Denny, so I apologize. We go through, like, for example, if you had a hold on Charter Review Committee, hold, generally ask me a question, or Denny, if you just want to go through, say the bottom line like we usually do, general government, does anyone have any hold on?
I was just going to call off the
perfect.
sections and go through each one, not long.
Then we'll hop back to them at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Charter Review at $0, no hold. Town Moderator, $0, no hold. Bylaw Review Committee, $0. Select Board for $62,692, thank you. No hold. Administration for $542,872. Finance Committee for $12,018. Reserve Fund for $500,000. Town Accountant for $306,662. Municipal Office Expenses for $64,600. Board of Assessors for $418,157. There you go. We'll come back to that.
You want to do it now, or you want to go through all?
No, I want to go through all of them, and then we'll come back to it. So
Could you ask them to raise their hand for the ones that?
that was Doug, Mark, and Ron. Anyone down that way?
Thank you.
Oh, it wasn't you? I'm sorry, I'm just used to it.
William or? I thought there was three.
I just always assumed it was him.
Yeah, I thought it was three also, so just to separate them out from this. Treasurer
Collector for $310,000.
Nope.
Human Resources for $4,000.
You skipped.
Did I skip one?
The treasurer
Oh,
was
sorry.
487. and
400, yeah, that made a lot more sense. 400, sorry,
496.
497, 299 for Treasurer Collector. Legal Services for $310,000. Human Resources for $4,000. No. Information Systems for $386,495. Town Clerk for $270,705. Elections and Registrars for $115,234. Conservation Commission for $104,908. Planning Board for $68,486. Zoning Board of Appeals for $1,950. Pond Management for $0. Community and Economic Development for $178,976.
I have one.
Did I miss one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Oh, forgive me.
where was I? Permanent building for 0. DPW building maintenance for $2,479,391.
Hold.
Okay, Doug?
Yeah. And then, town report and annual audit for $68,250. And then trust fund commission for $450. So we have 2 holds for, assessors and building maintenance.
Gene, are you missing pages? No. Okay, 'cause we caught it missing a couple.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I think I gave everyone the right updated package. Set, you're good? Yeah.
I'm all set.
Mark, you want to start?
I'll let Ron go first. Hi, Dennis. Could you explain the appraisal service, the 10-year plan, the 10-year requirement?
Just to introduce myself, my name is Dennis Fliss, I'm the Director of Assessing. I oversee the day-to-day operations for the Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors are a 3-member board, elected officials, okay? And so, the appraisal services is additional funds that we need in order to comply with the minimum standards and guidelines set forth by the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services. They basically have these standards that we have to meet in order, when we do our assessments of the properties, we have to meet certain guidelines and things like that. Just to give you an idea, if you really want to sleep, this is the packet, it's like 76 pages that we have to follow. And each year they update certain items, and one of the items that they made significant changes is that how we collect the information for the properties that we assess. It used to be that we had to do a cycle within 10 years of all the properties in town. Well, now we have to make sure that no property goes within a 10-year period. So we have to do that, basically, every year we do, let's say there's about 9,500 parcels in town, we have to do like 950 of those, okay? We could do it all at once, but at approximately $25 to $30 a parcel. If we do the whole town at once, that's like close to $280-something thousand. So what they suggest is that you spread that over the 10-year period. So with those changes, we need additional help in order to accomplish that. So that big increase, if you were to figure, I'll just do simple math, is if it's like, let's say, 900 times $30 a parcel's $27,000. But it's more like anywhere between $25 and $35 to accomplish this. And we have to do this to meet their standards, so they certify our tax rate.
So how does that deal with you have to do every 3 years too, right?
Well, no, that's something different.
That's something different,
It
okay.
used to be, every 3 years, we had to do a certification. And now they've changed that to every 5 years. And then every year, what they call an interim, we have to meet the guidelines, but they're not as strict as a 5-year certification. It's sort of like, if I can give you the analogy, when you were a kid, you used to go get your car inspected with your father. You drive up, and the guy goes, honk your horn, turn your lights. Okay, that's okay, put the sticker on and go. Now, they go hook it up to the computer, they look at everything back and forth, and that's what they do every 5 years, okay? So, in order to meet these guidelines, is that they want us to visit, no property can go longer than 10 years without, collecting the data. So we decided it's easier to put it in the budget as an annual expense versus every 3 or 5 years.
Thank you.
Through you, is this something that we're subcontracting out, or is That's something your staff can do in-house?
We don't have the staff to do that.
Okay.
Besides that, we have to do the building permits, and I think the building commissioner told me like 1,200 building permits a year, we have to do that. We got other things that we have to do, we have to look at sale properties and things like that. It's just that we are able to do it every 3 or 4 years when we got the additional funds. When we had to do the big revow, we would do that, catch up, because it was our understanding that it was all the properties within 10 years. Now it's no property longer than 10 years, so that's why we have to do it annually.
Okay. And is this something that they'll do like a section of town, or they will do so
They'll do a section of town.
year one will be, half of the Boyden School District, and then year two, just segregating the town around type of thing?
Right.
Okay. The other is the personal property valuations. Are those something that are now being done on an annual basis?
Yes, what happens is we just completed, you're required to visit every business in town every 5 years, and we've just completed that process. But then in between the every 5 years is what we have, they have the general maintenance of that property. What they'll do is, every business is required to file what they call a form of list with us indicating what they have, but they don't. Okay, so what happens is in the interim, we have a company comes out, they'll drive up and down the streets and they'll say, oh, this business is here, oh, the business is gone, there's a new business, so they have to relist the business, okay? So that's our annual, fee each year. Yeah, I think out of that, to be honest with you, I think we generate over $250,000 in new growth in that.
Any other question? Brian, you and I had emailed about a question on revenues and,
Yeah, it's probably more elaborate.
okay, so we'll save it for now. We'll track Jim down later. Anyone else on this topic?
Good question. Dennis, at one point, you had to do an audit of every item within the building. Do you still have to do that?
That's every 5, see, every 5 years, we have to do the whole town over. In the interim, like let's say the second, third, and year, what they'll do is they'll drive the town, and if there's an existing, we'll have the existing information on a business. If the business is still there, we just move on. Now, if there's a business that's new that we don't have, then we have to go in and relist count all the things and relist that and value those things.
Thank you.
Good?
Thanks.
Building maintenance?
So I guess just a couple.
Oh,
Um,
I can go.
Rubbing it in there, Rick.
If I could just introduce Cam's, John Anderson retired back in December. Cam started back in October-ish, was able to overlap with him for a few months, kind of figure out how things get done in the building maintenance department, so Cam Dosher.
Hi, everyone. Cam. Nice to meet you all.
That was one of my questions. I was going to ask if you were the new guy, so welcome.
Am I done?
I guess, I think it's a minor thing. I know, Jim, in your budget message, you said that we were going to level fund services, which is great. But I'm curious, I might be looking at the wrong section, but under heating, I don't see the Walpole Middle School anywhere. Where is that heating?
So that's an all-electric school now, so
Okay.
there's no need to have a heating line for that school.
Makes sense. That was it.
Wow.
We'll get you back later. We've got more to go through.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought Mark said he had a
Mark, do
question.
you have a question? Any more questions?
Oh, good, Cam.
Everybody else set? Great, thank you.
Aye. So that's our discussion on general government. Any other conversations or questions in general government as a whole? Not. Do we want to vote on that?
Yeah.
6 million, so we have a budget line item of $6,393,145 for general government. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action in that amount?
Second?
Mark? Doug. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, and what was the count?
I got 12, but I thought, yeah, 12, because we're missing Kathleen, we're missing Kelly, we're missing Scott. 12-0.
Thanks. So next is public safety.
Public Works. Agenda's got Public Works.
I'm gonna follow the booklet so I don't get screwed up. So, I'm gonna go with, public safety, so police department. Any holds on police department? Police department's total budget is,
Yes.
I figured. $7,546,200. We have a hold for Doug and Mark. Is that correct? Anyone else? Sorry, I'm just gonna make my notes. Fire department. For Mark. The department's for $6,504,501,776. That's Mark. We have inspectional services for $580,979.
I think so, hold on. let me- You messed me up by going out of order.
Well, the sheet is out
So-
of order in defense.
I was gonna say, yeah. Go in the order of the book.
Which one? That was inspection.
Inspectional services.
Let's just say yes, and I'll find it.
Aye. We have weights and measures for 15,000.
Yes. Hold.
Weight and measure. Doug. Emergency management for 28,330. Seeing none, we'll move on to animal control for 109,894. So we've got police. Put you on the hot spot today.
Deputy Kilroy's here, and Chief Kelleher, some very important family business where he had promised his son he'd take him to the Bean Pot for Christmas, so he didn't, we'd already had this.
I was a little jealous.
Yeah.
Doug, Mark? Mark, you ready?
Actually, this one's for Jim. Real quickly on the machinery and equipment. It looks like we deleted the purchase of 2 cruisers, so I'm assuming that's gonna be doubled up on capital in the fall?
So unfortunately, as I was whittling the budget down, 2 of the last things to go was the cruiser. I had already cut one off the top. And then, as you get further down, the parks position, the arborist, that was about 70,000 too. And it's just a matter of balancing this budget. It was, if you read my budget message, it was a tougher year than others because I was budgeting for an increase in the health insurance, which I'll get to that later on, which was higher than we've had in a very long time, and some other items in there, Tri-County. So I just trying to make everything work, and I said, how can I hurt this department the least? And it was more or less, I'll make it up to them around capital budget time. I don't want to do that because it's, you're kind of digging yourself in a hole, but it's just a balancing act type of thing.
Doug?
I have another one, you gotta find it.
I have a question about the sick time buyback for the expected retirement. You've given us a value, but I'm wondering if that value is going to be the actual value, or if that's just the maximum buyback that's possible.
It would probably be the maximum buyback, because we still have about a year before that takes place, but that's probably a good estimate of where it will be.
Okay. Do we have a sense of when we'll get a better estimate?
I think it more or less, and I don't mean to speak for the deputy, on situations like this, we budget for a conservative side on that one. I know when Judy's working on the budget with the chief, it's more or less, what's the worst-case scenario? So we take a look at that person's accrued time, figure, okay, if that person does not use any sick time between now and the time that person leaves, this is the max, so we won't really know until the person's gone. Yeah.
So just to clarify, is the budget based off of what you anticipate being the most expensive
Yes.
case?
Worst case.
Yeah, so in theory, if someone uses time and does some other things, you'll have some reserves left over. Excellent.
I like that budget approach.
Can you, through you, explain the other employee fringe benefits?
Which ones? How much?
It's only 5,000.
Well, that's part of the chief's contractual agreement between the chief, the select board, and the town. It's, I think it comes out to about exactly $100 a week to go towards this 457 plan.
The professional and technical, it's, you know, it's gone up about $30,000. Line item, you need the line item then?
530990900.
Yeah, professional services. On page 50. 530900.
Professional and technical expense.
It seems like it's been even for
there
several
is.
years, and this year here went up, from last year, $30,000.
I know it's the IT services, but that's the position I'm in for. Do you remember?
Well, that's, it's usually covered under the 911 grant.
Okay, so that's for, if Jody's mentioned, it's for the IT services, but it's for a company by the name of Delphi that we've been using for an extended amount of time. And from what I recall, from speaking to the chief, the rates have gone up somewhat, and I think Joe Zangetti advised the chief that he's gotta, we have to continue to, we're doing the bare minimum. We gotta go a little bit above and beyond that. When I asked the chief, you know, I could put some more money back in there. I think I had cut it down to the 47,000 or 57. You know, would you like me to try to put 20,000 in for a cruiser, or? And he said, no, the IT services are critical to the operations of the department. You remember? Yeah. Okay.
So it's for IT services.
Yeah.
Mark? Yeah. Jim, you had made several other miscellaneous town administrator adjustments to various budgets, and it comes to, I think, almost $68,000. Is that something that we're gonna be able to manage within the budget lines, cutting that kind of money out of the expenses?
So as we were going through it, Jody and I kind of tag teamed the budget. I'll go down and look at trends, you know, give me the last 3 years. Then we'll look at averages. So all of the reductions I had made as part of my recommendations were more or less based on averages and trends. And like, it may not all be averages, because I may look at one as an outlier year and say, okay, what was the worst case scenario? Like one of the years or something, can I go up to at least that? If they're coming in at 84,000 for gas and diesel, you know, how could I reduce that down without, you know, I'm not going to 93. That's line number 541000. How could I, it's just a balancing act, Mark, yeah.
The other was, at our December meeting, they were hoping to add personnel, and that was to include a sergeant and I believe 3 patrolmen. Were we able to make any inroads into that? I think there's a promotion in here to cover the sergeant spot.
Yeah, so I was able, that was minor, I believe it, from what I recall, it was about $3,600, and I was able to keep that in there. Chief explained that was pretty important, is chain of command and the structure of the department, so I was able to keep that in there. But again, once we get to the fire department too, it's just hard to add a position when I'm looking to make cuts to the budget, so. So at this time, level funded in terms of personnel.
So the last time you were in, that the police department was down, what, 2 positions did?
Yes.
So have those been filled, or are those anticipated to be filled within this budget?
We're in the process right now of finding personnel to fill those slots.
So will they, so that once they're filled, they probably wouldn't be on in the earliest, this time next year or so?
Yeah, if so, you mean on the road, or, probably you're looking at least 6 months. It's a long process.
Right,
Yep.
right, okay. And
It's, if you follow their Facebook page, they're doing the testing. They've joined a couple of other towns that do a joint white testing company that they use. That's gonna do the recruitment for them all, so I think it was very minimal, like a few $1,000s. And it's getting harder and harder to attract the police and fire personnel, as we've mentioned in the last few years. So that was not cut. We have still budgeted for the same number of personnel that we had last year.
so, will that increase the overtime budget?
No, the way we're staffed right now, I don't believe it will. We're still able to staff all the shifts appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Question, with the two people that you are potentially bringing on as you go through your process, that hypothetically could be brought into the '27 budget? With them coming in, if you're going approximately 6 months out, and we're February now? So do you have the money here now, or would you be?
Oh, it's budgeted for as
It's
if these
budgeted for
people-
now, so it's not something that '27 you're going to have to,
No, like in the past, I've
Okay.
filled a position on October 1st. I saw that as I only had to fill it for 75% of the year. No, I funded for the whole year. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, in theory, 6 months.
Yeah.
Should get us there, yeah. Good.
Fiscal period.
Yeah, good question. Anything else for the police? One more. Doug?
I'm just curious, I assume this is a theme throughout. What are we purchasing for the Federal Fair Standards Act, Labor Act? Are those codes? We got $4,000 to remain in compliance with federal labor laws, and I just don't know if that's software, or if it's,
No, I believe that's actually a law, we have to carry that.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it?
I've questioned it in the past
Yeah.
before, and I believe it's also in the fire department budget.
Yeah.
It's- You have to carry that as part of it. It's like
but are
Deputy
we,
mentioned.
are we buying anything?
It's a federal mandate that we have to pay into
I
it
think
each
it's,
year. Yeah.
I honestly don't know what it's for. I think it's just a coverage thing in case you need to utilize it, but I'm pretty sure it's,
What would we utilize it for?
Thank you.
I guess I don't know enough about it, so
to
I'm-
be
don't
honest,
either.
I don't have the answer to that question. We can find out.
I'll Google it.
It sounds like a legal fund that you're
Give you
paying
a
into.
call, see if I can get an answer.
I don't, no, it's not legal. I don't think it's legal fund. It's,
You want to speak to it, chief?
You want me to speak on that?
Yeah, I was gonna, if you know the answer,
coming to-
you're up next anyhow, so.
coming to rescue the police again.
I want the detailed answer though. It is a federal mandate, and it's more to do with overtime, and each individual has to work so many hours, is allotted to work so many hours to a certain time frame, and if they go beyond those, hours, then their overtime is actually calculated on a completely different formula than what our normal time and a half would be. So it's an adjustment if an individual works over an allotted set of hours during a time frame, then it's it's an additional funding that we're required to pay those individuals. Again, it kind of comes and goes. It depends how often somebody's out, and we have to fill those shifts. So it's, you'll see, I think the fire department's probably going $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for the past few years. It's just, it's not every quarter, every 8 weeks. It's just kind of a rolling figure that we all are required to pay.
How long has this been in existence?
As long as I questioned both of the former chiefs on it, why do we have to pay this? But like just looking at the police budget real quick, there were like 36 left over the last 2 years. They've spent it down. Like Chief Barry said, fire department's been kind of all over the place, 8,000, 6,000, 5,000, so it varies, you know.
Okay,
Thanks, buddy.
never picked up on it.
Any more questions for the police here?
Through you, just the ed incentives, is that Quinn bill?
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
Which is-
The old Quinn bill and the current new educational incentive, which matches, so yes.
Just through collective bargaining, is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
so the state used to pay half of it years ago. Duval, when he was the governor, cut it. We negotiated it to keep it in. Actually, I think the deputy was the union president at the time, to keep it in there. And so it's town pays for 100% of it.
Tim, do you have a question?
No, that was my question. I wanted to know why fire department was like an eighth of it, so.
Gotcha. Any other questions for police? That's it, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Fire.
See, that was much better than being at the bean party, isn't it?
I was trying to read my own handwriting. Fire is you, Mark, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to see which one I would start with here. I'm gonna start with the EMT stipends. We've got a significant jump there. Is it because more of the people who are EMTs are now becoming paramedics and they get the, instead of 10%, they get the 14?
It's a combination of factors, COLA, step raises, our step, multiple individuals that are at lower rates are jumping up to higher rates, and the increase has changed dramatically off of that.
I also noticed that you asked for $23,000 more than Jim's gonna give you for that line. Is that because of staffing or?
That's related to requesting individuals and budgeting for those
So you're not getting
additional
into
individuals
positions?
and
Okay.
discussion, the same as.
So, Mark, just to follow up on that, I don't know if any other questions are related to personnel. So the way I look at it, when the chief comes in, asks for additional personnel, it's not just the salary of
Right.
$54,247. It's also $3,100 for holiday. A lot of these reductions here
Yeah.
are made to overlap with, okay, one firefighter's worth $57,247, brand new, step one off the street. But they also have $3,100 in holiday pay, $75.95 in paramedic. He budgets $4,069 for one firefighter for education incentive, because not all of them come in with the education incentive. Then we get a budget $625 for background. I think there's a number in there for uniforms for the PPE. So it's not just here's your salary; it's other items associated with it.
Yeah, and I just saw his request, and it's like, I knew some of it was related to his staffing request, but then you cut it back, but you still ended up with a pretty big increase of 40,000. Okay. The other is, are your ambulance gonna be able to run on $18,000 less in supplies that Jim wasn't gonna give you? Because those are the EMS supplies. I'm assuming that's for the ambulance.
The EMS supplies, that's correct, we did get an increase on our ambulance maintenance account, so we're appreciative of that. But the supplies, we keep a tight eye on it. There was a couple increases that we hadn't anticipated, and the one we hadn't anticipated we're caught midstream right now, and we're dealing with that. And some additional funds that we requested through capital. So we should be able to, we'll keep an eye on it, and my staff does an excellent job researching it and trying to find the best deal, so we do.
Are you likely to be up against your $90,000 limit this year?
I'm sorry?
Are you likely to be up against your $90,000 line item this year?
We're right on track with our percentage, so we should be, we're keeping a close eye on that. So,
That was it for me. Thanks.
Any other questions for the fire department? Get out easy. I think you did such a great job in December.
you just don't want him to talk any longer.
He just doesn't want what? He doesn't want to be talking at all.
We had,
Not that technical.
Doug, you weren't sure about inspectional services
No,
or weights and measures.
I've got my question about inspectional services, but now I lost it, hold on.
Yeah.
About 108. He's still talking.
What do we need?
All right.
Inspectional services?
Inspectional services.
Jim's right there in the doorway.
It's not about parking, don't worry. I'm just curious, under expenses, you talk about software units used. There's a $42,000 item. It's a bunch of things. Annual fees for maintenance, viewpoint, permitting. I'm just curious what the software units are. Are they just several?
So we use a system called OpenGov, which is our permitting that a lot of town departments use as well, that we do for permitting, our licensing. And part of that is our bill is, once we go over so many records, it gets increased. So when it says units, it's just how many records we can have. So right now, I believe we're at 42,000. It goes up roughly 1,000, 1,500 every year.
Okay, it was more the idea of what's a unit, so you answered that. Thank you.
Other questions? Another one, out easy. Weights and measures?
That's Jim also.
Back in again, that's you, sorry.
I'm sorry, his
so
shirt doesn't
fast.
say weights and measures.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, that's what I, didn't think, back to there.
For this one, part-time permanent, we have a $12,000 allocation, but we have no description. Curious
So
what,
the 12,000 is for wages, price for, we have a part-time inspector. We have be registered with the state, and we have a gentleman from Framingham who does our weights and measures for us.
now I'm done, thank you.
Sure?
Yes.
Stand up, we'll
For
vote
now.
So that's all the holds, so we have public safety at $14,799,479. Any motions?
Move for favorable action in the amount stated.
Second?
Favorable action, Mark and Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 12-0-0, right? So public safety, DPW's next, correct? Yes, because we're skipping schools. DPW, so we start off with engineering for an amount of $399,307.
Hold.
Doug. DPW. Next is DPW administration for an amount of $371,728.
I think I have a full number. I didn't write the page number.
No problem. We'll play it safe. Highway Division in the amount of $939,653. Move on. Snow and ice removal in the amount of $819,600.
Hold.
Traffic control in the amount of $173,500. Solid waste and recyc, oh,
It's not a hold, I just have a question for, on that one, just a quick question.
yeah, sure, no. That was traffic, we said? Sorry.
Yes.
We'll call it a hold to keep it consistent. Solid waste and recycling for $2,776,185. Landfill maintenance for $0. Cemeteries for $191,237. Vehicle maintenance for $559,579. So we have Doug for engineering to start us off. This is a 2-for-1 special.
I won't get one.
Let me see, I'm just curious, under personnel services, underneath the assistant town engineer, there's an allocation for $95,000 without a corresponding description, I think, or else I'm,
So that would be for the senior assistant town engineer. We have 2 assistant town engineers. That would be for the salary for the senior of the 2. He's a longtime employee, maybe 12 years now.
it was just forgotten, just missed it. Like, there's no,
The description,
yeah, there's no description.
as to why the description's not in there, I don't know.
And then, let's see. had a question about dam inspections, I guess, did we do, I can see here the dam inspections this year, it talks about Memorial and Turner Ponds. Do we do different dams every year? Are these just the two for this fiscal year?
We do 2 dams every other year, 1 dam every 5 years, and 1 every 10 years. We're on the 2-year cycle in this budget, so I think, if I remember correctly, we've got Memorial and Turner's are gonna be done this year, about $5,000 in inspection.
Which ones are done this year?
Memorial and Turner will be done in this budget year that we're reviewing.
Thank you.
So that was it for engineering.
On to administration.
Administration, I was just curious about, one of the individuals has been here for 33 years, has a $1,000 stipend. And I just feel like in going through the stipends, or the longevity, sorry, wrong word, I haven't seen them this high. And so I'm just curious about the value.
So the $1,000 longevity for one employee?
I think it's in the collective bargaining.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry, there's an administrative
And I guess,
clerical position that's in the union, that's within the administration budget, and that's for that position.
yes, it's, so it's very large compared to the others.
As Jim stated, it was through the collective bargaining.
That's, okay.
Good thing yours isn't in here, Bert.
It is, it's less,
It is,
that's why
but
I'm
it's less than
questioning it.
that.
Anything else on that? Next up was street lighting.
Yeah, the traffic control, is that just the traffic lights or?
So this particular budget, the street lighting and traffic control budget, is for street lights and all the traffic signals that we have in town. So it's for the maintenance of those signals, whether it be a crosswalk signal or a full traffic signal.
And so the savings that was recently posted with the going LED, that's in here, that's.
Yes.
Is where at the 173?
Yes.
So years ago, when we approved that through capital, I think Susan asked me about this, well, when will we be back here to realize the savings? Fast forward a few years later, 'cause that program, as you can see, has really, really benefited. I mean, in '22, we were 322,000 spent, and we're down to 173, so.
Nice job.
Well done.
All set?
Yeah, I didn't put a hold on solid and waste.
Yeah, go right ahead while you're here, and then we'll get to snow and ice.
No, go ahead.
You're good, go right ahead.
Solid waste and recycling. The department requested 2.676, and Jim, you went $100,000 over. That's unusual that I see that you going higher than.
I'm really, Melissa and I work on that budget, and I depend on her I said, give me a conservative budget. I take a lot of caution with that, because over the years, I've seen people are sensitive about their trash, and I wouldn't want to run out of money for that. We have just less than 2.5 years left in our current contract with Boston Carting, who goes around and picks up the solid waste and trash throughout the town. I think the Wheelabrator contract's up in 2027, right, Melissa?
Exactly, the end of the calendar year.
Yeah, so I build in a little bit of extra money in there in case there's any unforeseen, like worst-case scenario, say people put out extra trash or extra couches or whatever else out there. I need that buffer in there so we don't come back looking for it. I know it's on the board's radar when the contract is up again to once again discuss the automated barrels that a lot of the towns we met with the DEP last time around, and they called us a dinosaur, the way we do trash. That was 2.5 years ago. We'll have to probably look at that again, but I'm not gonna get into that tonight, but just something that, the reason I bumped it up is just, I don't wanna be in a situation where we're running out of money. I need to come back for more.
Good dinosaur.
That's a question.
Read any, I just have a question about the solid waste and recycling. Have you seen any decrease in expenses due to people using the Black Earth composting system?
So I definitely think there's been a decrease in tonnage, and there has been more individuals signing on to the program, so I think that's assisting with it. And then obviously the mattress ban last year, and then the textile ban, so I think we are seeing a reduction. I do think some people are just, it's convenience, they're putting out whatever they can within the trash. So I think it's giving people the education to know what other resources are out there is getting, it's a help. So I definitely think it's reduced it a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the compost is, although you have to pay for it, but really it's,
That's convenient. Black Earth is a really convenient, because if you do the backyard, you have to sort, you can't have greases, you can't have animal product, where Black Earth, you can put anything curbside, and then they produce a bag of soil for you to use.
and they're very efficient, they're very responsive. I just wish there was some way to just encourage more people to jump on board
And
with
we
that.
do, and I don't know if I told the board the last time, we were able to use, we apply for a DEP grant every year, so we're able to use the funds that we get for that to give people the starter kit for free. So it's a little bit to subsidize the cost of the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go to snow and ice.
We've done some presentations.
Was there, Jean, is that a question, or?
No, April was just asking me a question about Black Earth, and what I said was, they've done multiple presentations at the library, they're on Facebook.
Yes, the Waste Reduction Committee has really, taken the reins over the last year and a half and really promoted that program, and continue to do so.
Thank you.
Got a question about the brine. that, how do I know when that's been used? I always see ice on the road.
Typically, you'd see the lines on the street,
And
probably about a foot apart.
okay,
You see strips going down the street.
told my wife we had it. Just always see the
We have-
rock
We actually
salt,
have it
so
on, what, 3
Have
vehicles?
you seen it down the street,
Okay.
4 lines? Oh.
That was it. No budget.
Kept it simple? Yep. So those are the DPW. The budget is for $6,230,790. I have a motion for anyone.
Favorable action in the amount stated.
Second.
Sue, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 12-0-0. On to the, what was it, Board of Health, Health and Services. So we have Board of Health for $393,550. Doug? I'm trying to make my handwriting a little better so I can see what
So you can read it?
I'm saying. Yeah, last time, I said, yeah, anyhow. Council on Aging for $361,511. Move on, Veteran Services for $140,272. And there we go, so Board of Health, Doug, you're up.
You don't have to get up. I wanted.
She does if she answers, because we need,
This is more of a comment than anything.
we're not getting yelled at.
Yeah. You had very thorough and detailed explanations, so I just wanted to thank you for the effort that you put. That was it.
Perfect. Veteran Services? Doug, is that?
Yep. Ian, are you gonna?
Yeah, we need the speakers at the microphone. I got yelled at last year for letting people talk from the floor and not getting it recorded properly.
No problem.
Just had a question about the 115 benefits.
Yes.
In your write-up, you talk about how the population ages, there's gonna be additional clients, but the services were reduced by $20,000?
Yeah, I think we're
Just-
just going off of trends on that, and, now that I'm almost a year in, I think I can kind of see the pattern of whether somebody's about to be eligible. And I don't foresee that changing, so we've had the same amount of recipients in the last, since I've been on, and I don't see that changing.
And honestly, Doug, as I was developing this is, I don't want to be cutting veterans' benefits. So I'd gone to Ian, talked to the finance department to see what our payouts are, and no one's losing benefits on this one. It's more or less, what have our trends been? The worst year was 73, then 55, it's dropped down to 44 this year. I originally had that down, I think when Ian and I talked, he said, you could probably go to 55 on it. I did build in an extra 10,000 buffer on that one. And of course, we get reimbursed 75%? From the prior year on that one, so eventually we'll get our money back. I know when John was the veterans agent, when he first started on, because John Splain prior to him was part-time, and as it ramped up and we were able to budget for that, and I anticipate that we'd be doing the same. And obviously I wouldn't hold back on doing any type of reserve transfer request on that if necessary, or if come the fall our trends are looking a lot different, I'd go back and ask to put in some more money in there.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Anyone else? Good. Just a-
Comment. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so
For
much.
somebody new, you're doing a really good job.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
So just to kind of talk up the program that he's doing, we've expanded our interlocal agreement with the town of Sherborne, thanks to Ian and Patrick's efforts. Sherborne approached us because you got your certification, which he's doing a great job, as you mentioned. And I think, can you speak to this about the law changing that you need to have a certified veterans agent? You want to talk about that?
Excuse me,
A little bit?
yeah, so, I'm trying to do a Reader's Digest version of it. The state basically caught on to, the VA caught on to the state not really representing their veterans well with the VSOs in town. So they've come up with this new, like a mandate. So like a mandate, so you have to serve 1,000 hours in the job to become accredited, and you have to be accredited to serve and help represent veterans to the VA. So I think what we're gonna see in the future is these part-time towns, or these towns that are having part-time VSOs, when those VSOs leave the office, those towns are gonna be required to either make it a full-time job or join a district. So I think we're at the forefront of creating a district, so where we can have all the veterans in our area represented the best way that they could be represented.
It's long overdue.
With this agreement, so we were able to expand, obviously, Ian's salary, we were able to split 3 ways, but not proportionate. It's not a third, a third, a third. Walpole pays, I think we're 2/3 or something like that. But we're also able to take on a part-time staff person here that will be working directly for Ian. And obviously, you can see the salary portion of the budget's level funded because we were able to get Sherborne to take on some of those additional responsibilities there. So budget didn't really increase, but the coverage for the veterans, not only in Walpole, but in Medfield and Sherborne, will also increase.
Perfect. So seeing no other questions, we have a motion for Health and Human Services in the amount of $895,333.
Second.
Who so moved it?
Ron? Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 1200. Next up is, sorry, my notes go, cultural and recreation, So let's start, make sure I'm on the right one. Walpole Public Library in the amount of $971,645. Doug. Recreation in the amount of $273,805. Doug. Parks Division.
No, I get that under recreation.
Historical Commission. Town Celebrations. Trail Committee. So that's it. So library. Turn it over, Doug.
Thank you. looks like we have 2 open clerk positions. And I'm wondering, are these like required positions, or are these with everything that's going on at the library and populations, or are these just like?
It's positions that were, there, I had 1 resignation.
Okay.
And then, one that was not filled last year, so the staff person retired, and that funding was directed somewhere else, but we really need it in the area where that position services. These positions are the frontline staff and on the circulation desk on the main floor. And we've really had situation with being short-staffed, like pretty much the whole time that I've been here, where the hours that were open, we've not necessarily had the staffing level that we really need to maintain quality services, and other staff had to be pulled down from other areas to fill in gaps, because there's a safety issue for making sure that there's enough people at that area while we're open.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone else?
I do have a quick
Yeah.
question. Are you having trouble filling these positions?
They were just recently posted. I've had some applications coming in, so I will see. I'm anticipate that we'll be able to fill positions successfully.
Excellent. No question this year on the hours for the population and the percentage?
Meets the hours,
It's
the
always-
budget as presented meets the requirements for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, so you will remain certified. The portion of the budget that goes towards materials is about 75%. We'll make up the difference in gifts and grants, so I really don't have any concerns. What I was trying to do here with the personnel, I guess, services line is with the retirements that we had last year. So Sal retired, so I'm officially library director this year. Last year, I did present to all of you as the assistant director. I have since filled the assistant director position. So with these new hires, there were kind of new hire differentials, so that's where I'm trying to have those open positions actually be filled now. So it really doesn't require that much additional funding. We're just using funding that the department had to fill positions that we need.
Wonderful. No other questions? We'll go on to, can't read my own handwriting, again. Recreation. Thank you.
Two questions. I guess the first one, and I don't know if it's directed to you, Renee, or to you, Jim, about the Walpole Middle School fields. My understanding is that there was a error with the way the new grass was put in, and it was.
It's a Jimmy question too,
Okay.
probably.
Come on up, Jimmy.
Okay, if you could step up to the microphone.
They installed the grass.
You gotta step up to the microphone. Sorry.
That's right. Jim Thomas, Park Superintendent. They, after they did the construction down at the new middle school, they put the field back in conditions. It's on hold for right now until the spring. We're gonna take a look at it in the spring to see if we're gonna accept it or not.
So they put the field in, they took everything out, now they're gonna put another one in.
Well, they laid the sod down.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
It was the
tall
wrong-
lichens, but they came in with another company and they fixed it up. So we put it on hold and we'll wait until spring to do another walkthrough before we take ownership of it.
But it's not gonna cost us anymore, it's just.
No, it's like, it was a bone of contention for all.
Right,
all
so
of us
the
here.
town
Yeah.
has not accepted that field.
Yeah, we just haven't accepted
Because
it.
of the issues.
Okay.
Glad you mentioned, I saw the, saying, that is not level.
We spent a lot of time out there walking.
Walking by there and just driving, just saying, what's going on? And these guys are just.
I'm gonna have to take a ride by now. I wanna see this.
Pulling it back, they put it out, they roll it back, try to like shim it, and then roll it back out. I mean, Jimmy spent, in the Parks Department, spent a lot of time out there, you know, putting the irrigation back in and everything, and it was, they haven't, like Jim said, we haven't accepted it or anything, and I think they're very reluctant to accept it unless it's to Jimmy's liking.
Yeah.
And, next question, which was, I noticed in the parks budget, it was about the.
Wait a minute, you didn't hold on to parks.
I did, no, I held
I'm
on to
just teasing.
recreation, and
I'm
this
just
is, but
teasing
it's good that you're still here. So you have an item for $8,500 for a lease agreement for turf, tank, robotic field lining, stripping equipment.
Yes.
Within this, you mentioned that the cost will be split with the recreation department, but I didn't see an allocation in the recreation
It'll come out of
department.
the fields revolving.
Okay.
Field money.
So it's
This
the
is a
line painter?
robot.
Yeah.
This is be a robot, so,
They had to sell me on this, so he's a good salesman.
so how it works is, there's a satellite. So we set up a satellite like a tripod, like the surveyors use.
RTK GPS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay? And then and then we program it to do the size of the field and what type of field it is.
Yeah.
At the location. And we just push the button and off it goes.
Things are amazing.
And up to the new fields, we can set it to do 2 fields at once. Like when it finishes one field, it will automatically go to the other side of the field to start another one.
In the spring, when you do the fields, I live walking distance, I wanna
see it too.
I wanna call, I wanna know when it's out there and come see it
Okay.
painted.
Field line.
So that's what this is.
I got a robot dog that I'll bring with me and
It's
we'll
like
walk
3
around
people,
together.
it's like 3 people. This machine
Yeah.
does 3 people's job.
Thing's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite a machine.
Excellent. Sorry, I get excited about
No,
technology.
I was kind of excited about it too. But, and one more question. 1A Fields, we're gonna get them striped, the parking lot?
Yes.
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 Perfect. Thank you.
I'll just say I walk my dog around those fields every day. Those things are great. And then you even cleared the snow off the turf field?
No, we didn't touch that this year.
Oh, it just melted on its own then?
Just melted. Once the sun hits it and the rubber heats up. it
Heats up and goes
takes
from there.
off.
Yeah.
But we did plow the loop around. People loved that.
Yeah.
We had that all plowed for walking.
Yeah,
The people really enjoyed that.
it's a real gem to the town, so I'm glad we
is.
got that done years ago.
Right.
Sorry, I'm now drifting us off in somewhere else. My job's to keep us on schedule, so.
It's
Excellent. Any other questions?
I just want to make a comment. It is meticulous.
Thank you.
It is absolutely, all of the fields, really, the maintenance is incredible, but the one on 1A is just amazing.
Yeah, we have a
After
good
all we went through to get it,
We all take a lot of pride in
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
I have a good crew.
you do.
Take a lot of pride.
Ron, sorry.
The labor fields, but, you know, my kid's growing up, going on bird, and you're just dealing with the Canadian geese. And then even a couple of weeks ago, I see them back. Is there anything, I mean,
Bird flu.
I just hope, I didn't want to say that on camera. But I didn't say that. But it's just a shame.
To the
we're gonna have
lawyer.
These gorgeous fields, and we're still having the same old problems we've had for the last 30 years or so. Okay.
Get a robot for that.
Robot dog.
I got one I can sell you. Excellent.
Have a comment
Yeah.
through you, Denny. I just wanted to say, the Recreation Department continues to do a fabulous job.
Thank you.
My daughter lives in a nice town, not too far away, and I'll tell you, they can't hold a candle to our offerings, and the staff are great. So, I mean, really, you're doing a fabulous job. Appreciate it very much.
And she came all the way up here from Pocasset. She has to go
That's
back there.
quite a ride.
It's only 50 minutes, it's fine. It's worth it.
Someone drives a little fast, I see.
Drives like I do.
This time of night, it's 50 minutes. Thursdays in the summer, it's a little bit longer, but it's all worth it.
Where'd the deputy chief go? He might have to pull some strings later.
I don't speed till I get out of Walpole. I take my jacket off.
I love it.
Excellent. So that, culture and recreation comes to $2,202,411.
Make a motion to approve from the set amount.
Got Doug, anyone else?
I'll second.
Sue? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Steve,
Oh, yeah, screwed up my number, sorry. Erase now.
1101.
Perfect.
Children are still late for
Uh,
minutes. At least one of them, anyway.
Do they have to, on some boards I've been on, they
We've never required anyone to
explain
explain why.
why. Okay.
Explain why what?
They're
Why?
abstaining, but-
abstaining.
so I'm not gonna make him do it
No,
now.
I'm not.
I'm just gonna stare at him. I'm just kidding.
son's a lifeguard, so there it is.
Oh, is that- my daughter works, I voted.
Well,
Same.
that's you.
Yeah.
Through you, aren't the lifeguards paid out of a revolver?
Conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So you're not voting their budget if they're a lifeguard.
Just call them, yeah.
You're good.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
We get into debt services. I have debt, retirement of debt.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, sorry.
Very much.
I feel like I've done it every year. so-
For $7,790,000.
I feel bad for these guys.
$7,797,126. Anyone wanna, it's just one. Questions? Yeah, go right ahead, Ron.
So when we do this, is it just a, a set number, this building here, X amount, and it just rotates every year?
For the
based on
most part. So I actually, I expected you to place some holds in a couple of items, so I'll kind of highlight them. So at the bottom of page 37, if you follow on the big chart here, WHS renovations, initially, it's, Jody inputs the request for these items, and then her and I kind of hash it out. So initially, when we looked at that, we were thinking of principal and interest payments. Was that gonna be a full payment next year or partial payment? The way we work with our OPM on this particular project, because this wasn't funded as part of a debt exclusion, it was within the levy limit. So we gotta figure out, the second to last from the bottom, line number 595051. And more or less, we'll go back and forth, what's our cash flow look like, when do we anticipate we'll have to dip into the payments there, so that's the reason we actually reduced that, we don't expect it to be a full payment, in FY '26. And like, same kind of goes for the Allen Dam, number in there, initially it was 133, we knocked it down to 100, again, because we're mindful of when that project will actually start, when will we get hit with our first payments on that one. That one, if you might recall, we're working with the Army Corps of Engineer. I believe we have to come up with a fifth of the cost, one way or another, whether it's in-kind services or the actual cost. Town meeting gave us an authorization this past year to borrow 2.6 million. Does that sound about right, Jody? Yes. I think it was 2.6 million for that one. They'll be paying the other 4/5 on that one. So that's one item I thought you might hold on. I also thought you might hold on the ban interest in the, we had a line in here. Jody might.
JM's roof and windows?
The what?
JMS roof and windows?
That's the Johnson Middle School on that one. What line's that? I'm sorry.
590612. Bottom of page 36.
Oh, okay, so the reason that was actually taken out is, since before your time, so I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. Last year, we entered into an agreement with the Bi-County Collaborative and the Tech, which is the Education Collaborative, to special schools, special needs, special education schools that now operate out of the Johnson Middle School. So what we're able to do with that, and you'll notice in building maintenance, I zeroed out those lines too for heating and the utilities. That's coming out of, it's a revolving fund you set up, right? It's a revolving fund that Jody set up. So we take in, call it roughly about $1 million a year for the rental of that school. The deal as part of that was we separate out the utilities, which last year we calculated to be I estimated it to be $437,000 a year. So in the end, ultimately, as part of our budget balancing process, we're using, call it about $500,000 a year, and I think we called it JMS FC or something like that. So it actually closed out, it's closing out to free cash because it's our first year. But all of these Johnson Middle School related items we're taking out of that revolving fund. That's why it's zeroed out there. So one of those things being the roof and the windows, which I think we got about 5 to 7 years left, not very long.
No, not that much
longer. Worth of payments on that one. So there was a couple items on this. We made some tweaks too. Initially, we also had interest arbitrage in there. And you might recall seeing that as part of the free cash spreadsheet that I bring out every fall. We're anticipating that we're gonna get hit for arbitrage. I had a big question with Jody, like, what is arbitrage? Why are we getting hit for it? Why should we have to pay on making our own? It's just the law. And our financial advisors had told us, we went and borrowed, call it about $70 million for the middle school. We were Joe and Lisa did too good of a job. We're making too much back on the interest, so we have to set aside a certain amount. And that's estimated to be, now, do you know how much?
So what we have left right now is about 500,000 that we're gonna have to spend, and that'll be due, I think, in 2027. But we have that, we have our financial advisors review that every year for us.
So we try to keep that money rolling forward in free cash because we know the bill is gonna be due someday. So I don't know if that was all your questions, but those were a couple things I thought about.
Audrey?
I don't know if this is related to what you just shared, but I think Doug asked the question last meeting around the impact of what's going on in the federal government, and I think a lot has happened since Doug asked the question, but are we concerned about the tech school and the middle school losing their funding and then not being able to pay us, or the Army Corps of Engineers deciding to not expend money in some way?
Honestly, yeah, I'm concerned about those things and more. We were talking about, Pat and I last week, ARPA funds. You know, what if, for the most part, we spent all of our ARPA funds? We have a few items, like less than, you know, I think in total, under 500 grand left in just balances and everything, but we received 7.2, I think, for that. And we received all of it, yeah, so, but would they try to crawl back? Or, you know, there was, last week when Trump issued that statement of the crawlback, we were, the green communities people, the grant that I'm working on, it's like federally backed, that still DOER, the state level can't give us guidance about how they're gonna process that grant. So yes, we're concerned about it, we're mindful of it.
Yeah, it's gonna affect the library budget too, because a lot of that comes from federal IMLS funding too.
And I don't know, ultimately, will it affect state aid in any way? Well, because it's all trickled down, and it comes, you know, state gets some money from the feds, I don't know how it's gonna impact us, but no one's issued any directive or anything yet at this time, so.
Okay.
No.
Makes it fun to plan, huh?
Yeah.
Any other questions? And then our last topic is,
Because that one's fine, that budget.
oh, yes, sorry. Sorry, I forgot. We have the debt and interest amount of $7,797,126.
Move favorable action in the amount stated.
Second.
Mark and Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 12-0-0. Benefits. I was gonna say, let's just talk, it's just you, let's go through, yeah.
So.
Rather than go through each one, it's a free-for-all now.
Yeah,
We'll
so
open it up.
I'll just kind of run through it, and then if you got any specific questions, we can hop back to it. But obviously, if you read the memo I issued on dated January 21st, there are a couple items I'm mindful of. One of them being the retirement situation. The retirement situation is, we're fine for this year. We have enough money budgeted. The next few years, it's really very much up in the air. If you read the memo, right, the document that I saw back, I think it was in November or December, had our assessment going up to 8.1 million in change. That would be a huge hike, and we're not alone in this. There's, I think we're about we're in the top 10 for there's 37 or 42 employer units. 40, call it about 40 bargaining units, anywhere from Randolph, Franklin, they're kind of the top two, all the way down to Cohasset Housing Authority, which is very small. So it's kind of all over the place. And we're in the top 10. We might even be like top 7 of contributors to that. So there's other cities and towns that are impacted by the assessment. And I know the retirement board is still more or less, they voted to fund a one-year plan, which we meet our requirements with the 7+ million, 7.3 million I'm recommending here. But that could very much change. I think we're having a meeting, is it February? Yeah, with all the member units are invited. They're gonna talk about their plan to get this fully funded. The law requires us to be fully funded by 2040. However, their actuarial people, and I think PARAC, want them to be funded by 2035 because that gives them a 5-year buffer if something goes crazy with the market. Am I hitting everything, Lisa? Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of why that's a little bit up in the air. I'm comfortable with this number that's listed there tonight. I think that'll be fine for 2026, but I don't know about 27 and beyond, obviously. That's something we're gonna have to deal with leading up to it. As far as unemployment compensation at 250, all things being equal, I'm fine with that number, but I don't know what the school department is going to do. And if they actually are going to have layoffs, I don't think I'd recommend any changes to this at this point. I know the chair's mentioned at his last meeting, you know, there might be a situation where they do have layoffs, but that could also be just, some people retire and they go on to other positions and they don't fill it, so it might not result in layoffs. They're still in the middle of their collective bargaining. They haven't negotiated a successor agreement. Their agreement ends at the end of this June. I've heard negotiations are going well. I think the superintendent and her team are optimistic that they'll have an agreement in place, but there's no agreement until it's in place. So, so as far as the unemployment budget, that could be impacted one way or another, and we'd have to go back and adjust that. But for now, I'm fine with 250. Net metering, that's an agreement that we had in place. I think we entered into it in like 2017, 18-ish, and for those of you who are new to the committee, we actually made a deal where the town gets the benefits of some of the electrical, the solar fields. This one's mostly down for South Walpole, the old burn machine site. We pay into it, but you'll see on the revenue side of things in your budget binder, we actually get funds for revenue on that one too. And the reason, back in 2022, it was zero expended. Our auditors came back and told us they didn't like the way we were doing it. They want us to show an expense and to show a revenue. We were just showing, you know, it was like $300,000. It's a net of the town's making about 300-ish off of it. So casualty insurance, pretty consistent there. Patrick handles most of that for me, and the reason I reduced that budget, I went back and said, you know, I'm looking for ways to reduce this. I think he had budgeted about a 10% increase. I knocked it down to about 8%. And transfers, $1 million in there for the transfer. I had initially put in 1.5. Ideally, I would have liked to level fund it, but we left it at $1 million for the transfer to capital stabilization. Eventually, we're gonna need that money when the bill for the high school comes due, because the way we set it up, and one night when we get into the debt sheet, I'll show you. But eventually, we're gonna need to reduce that down and push money back up to the debt and interest budget to offset the cost of the high school project. But for now, we recommend leaving it at $1 million because we're gonna need that money eventually for the high school. And I think I skipped over the big one, employee fringe benefits, which is the health insurance. I mentioned that we met with our health insurance provider, which is Maya, which they're an agent for Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's a consortium of I'd say 100 to 200 cities and towns across the state. They provide health insurance to us. They told me budget, you know, they're coming in 10 or 15%. We had met with them. They said, well, your trends, we don't know for sure, but your trends are maybe around 12-ish. So I needed to balance the budget. I knocked it down to 11%. They told me last week we're trending more in the direction of 14%. So yeah. So what does 14% mean? I've run the numbers. It's an additional $300,000 I need in that line. So am I hitting the panic button? Definitely not. We have ways of handling it. The select board are working on an executive session tomorrow night. I'm going to kind of review what our options are. Back in 2015 and 2019, we sat collectively with the employee groups and we're able to come to an agreement on health insurance, changing some of the contributions, changing mostly in terms of like deductibles and how can we offset the cost at the time. We may follow a similar path. The problem is the time frame is really tight. Open enrollment for Christine, who runs that for us, is in April. Even if we work out a deal, it's just going to be tight. I don't know if it'll be in place by FY26, but we're going to figure through that as we kind of navigate through all this. So I'm not asking you to vote on this section of the budget just because I am 100% sure it's going to change between now and April. So questions?
And there's some questions,
Yeah, through you, Jim, just a general question, but are they all, the health insurance employee contributions, are they all through the collective bargaining for each group, or it's just, it's straight across the board?
Kind of a little bit of both. The non-union folks and the union folks are all, it's set, it's basically set by your hire date for the most part, generally. Anyone hired prior to, January '03, 80/20, after that, you're 70/30, but then, around 2014-15, we sat with the bargaining groups, and we did a 60/40 split, but that's based off of it's different for police and fire and a couple of others, but around 2014-15, that's when we instituted 60/40. So anyone hired after that date are 60/40 contributors. But then we also introduced 2 new plans that are benchmark GIC equivalent plans that people have been taking advantage, utilizing. So it's kind of all over the place. So it's part of their it's part of their collective bargaining, but some of the people, such as myself, are non-union people, but we also adhere to it.
Gotcha. And the retirees, I know that's a whole different animal, but
They're based on their employment date. So anyone hired after '03, if you're a retiree, you're at 80/20. But, we have plenty of retirees that were hired after '03, and they're 70/30.
Yeah.
But it's not, you retire from the town of Walpole, you automatically go down to 50/50. No, it's still based on your retirement, your employment date.
and I'm sure you always ask the question, right, what about the state board as far as joining?
So that's why I mentioned benchmark, because the GIC is what the benchmark plans that they offer, like the higher deductible plans. So we offer those too. We didn't join the GIC program because, the employee, the different groups didn't really want to join it. But we offer comparable plans.
Thanks.
Audrey?
So I have a question about the Facilities Capital Stabilization Fund and the Capital Stabilization Fund. And you said we're transferring money to the Capital Stabilization Fund for the high school, but I thought the facilities was, so can you just explain the difference?
So there's
between the two?
there's 3 stabilization accounts. Our basic stabilization account, which has about $12 million in it, I think.
Yeah, it's in the memo right here,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then our facilities, which has.
450.
Yeah, 450, we just established that one. That one was more or less a starter or a fertilizer for the Johnson Middle School project. Because I'm mindful as a landlord now, if the boiler breaks, we're gonna have to replace it. That's on us, the larger thing. So it was more of just a starter.
So not for the high school or anything?
No, that one's just.
That's regular
focused
capital.
on that building.
Okay, thank you.
Ron?
Jim, you said you met with your property and liability insurance. Do they have any forecast what's going to happen next year, given, it isn't just our area, but the impacts of between the hurricanes and the fires and what that's going to do in property liability?
No. Do you add anything to that?
No,
Say much?
so they're monitoring, so where I am seeing the effects of that is with your builder's risk insurance policy, the high school project. So, we're supposed to have builder's risk insurance as soon as you start having the vertical building, so once the steel will start getting erected. And they're really hesitant about quoting that to me now, knowing, there are all the hurricanes down south, there's the wildfires out in California, so there's just so many natural disasters that are taking place, affecting property lines across the board that, knowing that we're gonna have steel starting to get erected in the next couple of months, they're hesitant about giving me a quote for that now, so. But I'm sure it'll trickle through the property line, so.
Sure, nothing's gonna be level funded. It's just, the other question I had was, and you don't have to answer it, but in regards to the health insurance, and especially since the school department is under negotiations, is that part of the negotiations, and are we factoring that in? But again, you don't have to answer that, given it's a
I know it's been
active negotiations.
brought up during negotiations, but with this kind of wrench that got thrown into it last week, likely 14% increase, I don't think, by me going to the select board tomorrow night in executive session, I'm likely gonna be talking about all of the employee groups.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we're not gonna vote on this budget because you expect to give us something
It'll
different.
be changed, for sure.
In another month or so. So we are back here next Monday, right?
Right.
Next Monday, yeah.
So just to touch upon a couple of quick things, if you don't mind, Dave. So,
Yeah, please.
next Monday night, you're back here. I don't have budget a budget or budget book for the school department. I anticipate they'll get it to us, and I know Bridget has Mary Mortale reach out to members to let you know that it's available, but whenever we get it, we'll be sure to bring copies that evening too for you. And I had mentioned just more of like a general budget overview, just more of the challenges that I'm looking at in that memo on January 21st. You know, the difference in figures for the Walpole Public Schools budget versus the budget I have in front of you that's balanced. It's off a bit, so they're looking for a 5.75 increase. I'm sure they can speak to that compared to a 3.41. Tri-County they're actually, I had a few people ask us, our enrollment actually gone down by a few students from 91 this year to about, I think it was 87 for enrolled next year. So that never actually happens. A business manager told me out of the 11 towns were the only one to actually drop a little bit in enrollment. So that's good or bad depending on how you look at it. I think that once that school's built, they've showed us some rendering, it's gonna be really nice, and I think the demand's gonna pick up there, but they're capped off at 1,000 students, so I think it's gonna be even more competitive to get in there. Other post-employment benefits, I just gave you a quick update as to where we stand with that, and how we're doing. Nothing major. I gave you the various account balances and the stabilization, the free cash and everything. As far as we get closer, when we work our way through this process, I thought I heard, Ron, you talk about revenues, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in the process, but I know you have the information in your budget book. You have any questions specifically, you know, why do we pick this number versus that number? More than willing to talk, or if you want to talk about it at a committee meeting. That's kind of it for me. Any questions?
On that, so since Tri-County was an override.
It wasn't an override.
It was an assessment.
So the way it worked is, they put the vote to the district, which is the 11 towns. It passed, but it doesn't have a funding source associated with it. So, this past year, I think the building cost us about $126,000 when they were just designing it. I think I said in here, I expected our assessment to increase, call it about $700,000. And the chart that they had showed me last year was go from about 100, spike up to 700,000. It's 2 years worth of 700,000, and then it goes up to like 970, 2 years of 970, and then it levels off at just about $1,071,000 or something like that. And the challenge with that building is going to be with our enrollment going up and down. Your assessment's going to change every year for every town, and that's just the way the agreement's set up. So it's going to be different.
So that really didn't affect 2.5. That's still within our full budget?
It's within the levy limit. So one of the items of contention that the school committee brought up last year is it was really a shame that they had worked so hard on the Chapter 70. I think our number had went up, call it about $1 million. They weren't able to realize the benefit of that $1 million because we put it in stabilization to cover one of the costs of the high school, but it really helps to pay for the Tri-County. It's on the member towns to come up with it. However, a few towns passed some overrides. We didn't pass an override. A couple, Millis, I know, failed an override. So here's the bill. You have to take it and figure out a way to pay for it.
How have our trends been? I mean, the kids applying, is it pretty steady year after year?
For Tri-County?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, usually hovers around 90 or so. You know, this year it was 91, then dropping down to 87, but, you know, I haven't seen it go above 100.
Do we want to do an overview of the zoning?
Sure. Is Jim? Oh, okay.
So I'm still waiting around.
They have to get
We're shooting the breeze. I figured I'd have them jump in.
Yeah, so we're in the process of doing a zoning rewrite. We do have 7 articles coming in front of the boards. Article 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are more of a rewrite. It's chapter 1 to 4, and a small alteration of chapter 7 under signs. It's just cleaning up some of the wording. Our zoning kind of repeats itself a lot, and we also state some dates on it that are not up to date with state law. So we're just clearing up the state laws and some rewrite zoning on those articles, so they're pretty straightforward. The big two are Article 11, which is the floodplain overlay district, or Chapter 11. This is basically FEMA wetlands and floodplain that it comes basically from DEP at the state level. So we're kind of just like a stopgap. It's in our zoning that if you're in that area, we make sure you follow the state laws and rules and regulations. It's for floodplains, flood insurance, because the FEMA are releasing new maps to where the flood districts are. The last time it was done was in 2012, so it's been updated and they're slightly moving. So to keep the town and the residents covered through insurance, we need to get this article passed and on our zoning bylaws.
So I had questioned that. I said, why is that on us? It was more or less, as Jim said, it's for our residents. If in order to get the flood insurance, we need to update, it's on us to update our flood maps. And it's just more or less a general requirement on behalf of the town to do right by the residents. So that's why it's on there. And it is a zoning bylaw. Then the last one's the ADUs.
Last one is everyone's favorite, the ADU. You probably remember we're here a year and a half, 2 years ago on ADU. We changed our in-law to ADU, which we rewrote it and tweaked our in-law a small bit as of right. The governor back in November signed in an article to make the ADU as of right, and put it under Section 3 of 48, which is the Dover Amendment, as a protected use. So right now, we're trying to get ahead of it. February 2nd, the ADU has come into effect at the state level with very little restrictions. We are allowed as a town do reasonable restrictions, it's called. So anything that we have in our zoning, we can use to protect ourselves for setbacks and coverage. So we've written a new ADU article, and by getting on the warrant, we're actually allowed to protect the town slightly better than what the state level has added for protection. So now it's going to be, just give an example, it's as of right, the units can be anywhere in a single-family district, not so much a single-family house, but a single-family district, which is our rural, residential A, B, GR districts. They can be rented out to anybody, and you do not have to live in neither of them for it to be rented. So you can rent the main house and the ADU if you'd like.
So everything we did
Right.
a year ago is now being overwritten by the governor?
Yeah, so some of our laws have been taken out that we can't enforce anymore.
Gotcha.
Well, except for like all the parking and setback and all that fun stuff that we did.
So the parking on this type, no. So we have residentially allowed, obviously, 4 cars per residential home. The ADU is allowed to get its own one car. So it could be on top of those 4, but it can't go above the 1. Unless you're within half a mile of a T station, the parking's not required.
And there can be more than one structure, an ADL on a particular lot. Does it have to be attached? Jim?
So no, they can be either attached or standalone. And again, with the old ADU in-law that we did have, you had to have it connected to the main house if you did attach it. Now you do not have to connect it. It can be complete separate entrance. Like it's virtually a 2-family is what it is. It can be either attached again or standalone. And we didn't put in. They give an option for you to put in a special permit which allow multiple on a single lot. We did not take that motion up. We left that. That's an option. We left that out because.
Local option.
Yeah.
So I know some questions are coming up, but we're gonna have a whole meeting on this, right?
Oh, yeah, after the planning board.
After the planning board?
I would assume.
I like your
So once
optimism.
we have their hearing date, we'll of course let you guys know. You're welcome to attend it, or, I know Patrick and Jim will be there. And then hopefully the chair or his representative will come in, talk to you a little bit about that. So yes, we're gonna definitely talk about it again.
So I was gonna say, with that, I don't wanna cut anyone off now, but I just wanna make sure everyone knows we got plenty of time to talk
Yeah,
about
and
it.
I know we're gonna talk about
But
that.
hold on, we had Audrey was
Yeah,
ready
no, I
to
just
go.
had a question,
Then I'll come right back
and
to
I
you.
definitely read your memo word for word and memorized it, but we just had the master plan process. Where are we on the comprehensive zoning bylaw rewrite? So looking at these all comprehensively, is that in the works, or is that something we're considering to look at for the town?
It's in the works, but, yeah, it's in the works. And I know they formed the committee where, Phil Chigurowski, what's his name?
John
O'Leary
O'Leary
was on it.
Sarah Katiba's on it.
Someone from the
Ed
zoning board.
Forsberg, Patrick DeShane and myself are doing a zoning rewrite for the whole town. So we've got a budget. Patrick got a budget for the town, so we're using our KP law. through the grant we got. So this will be probably one of 3 meetings we're probably going to be coming. We've got, this is kind of, right now, we've got a stage that this is kind of, besides the floodplain and the ADU, which are obviously big articles, we have to get them in, we've no choice. The other one is just a rewrite, and then moving forward, we'll go more into the more stringent of the main zoning things, such as lot coverage, zoning areas, the special conditions that go with it. So the more deeper ones that we need to look into more, we are going to be rewriting them. So it's probably going between this May, next October, and hopefully next May we'll have it completely done with maybe 1 or 2 carried over to the following October.
Thanks, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, so for the spring, we're gonna be mandated to address the accessory dwelling units, that's, and we can't opt out, right? Is it-
No.
Is it?
No, if we
similar
don't do
to the
anything,
MBTA?
it's much less local control. You wanna, so if we take no action or do nothing on it, what could happen?
So if we take no action, they can technically, you can come in as a homeowner, apply for an ADU with no setbacks, you can put it right up against your neighbour's property, you can put it right onto the road, and because, again, the state law just says we have to give it. So much so, they put it under the same protection as the Dover, which, as you know, is church,
yeah.
religion, education, solar. This is in the same category, so it's been approved, I cannot refuse it as building commissioner, I have to give you a permit. This gives us some protection to setbacks and lot coverage.
Thanks.
Some exciting things to look forward to. Do we have any more? You got?
A quick question, Jim. Does the zoning board have a date for the hearing on this?
The planning board? No.
Excuse me, the planning board.
They haven't. I think actually Aoife officially just noticed them over the last few days, so,
Okay.
yeah. And then they have an X amount of days.
65 days.
65 days to set the hearing and hold it within that time frame. So it's tighter up to town, leading up to town meeting.
Thank you.
I got 2 more. I got 2 more questions.
Jim, just on schedule, is there a reason we're moving the public hearing 2.5 weeks before town meeting?
So I talked to Denny about that, and it's a personal reason, honestly. My daughter is doing cheerleading down in Florida, and my wife can't make it, so I have to go, and I had asked Denny if I could do it remote, and he was comfortable doing it then, so.
In the,
Are you
What
coming
is
in
the date of
uniform at
the-
all, Jim, or?
No, I'm a cheerdad, though. My son's coming with us too, so, yeah.
That's the other thing I was gonna say, that following week is the school vacation week, right?
Yes, it is.
So,
You're missing school?
Don't tell the superintendent that. So, yeah, that's why we had done it, but if things change, obviously, we can adjust that.
Doug?
My question is about the budget, and in this case, we have these wonderful stickers that says, give the book back. But my question is about all of this material, and are there any discussions about putting this stuff online so we don't have to print off all these pages, so this information is more accessible?
No, I like the hard copy.
I like
I'm
the
sorry.
I'm a paper person too. I just can't help but look around the room and think that if these were available for certain people in Excel, you know, I could go through this pretty easily, get my percentages, do my calculations without pulling out the calculator, coming out with all these notes, and it
That's
just
because you're young.
could be.
80-year-olds, we don't.
But is it ever gonna be an option? Or are we always gonna be going with books?
I'm always flexible. If you'd like it that way, you're the first person asked.
I asked this question a couple years ago, and I didn't remember exactly all of
It's kind of
the.
Dan Bruce
Yeah.
routine too with the warrant. He wanted it online as
Yeah.
opposed to being mailed out.
So if a member would like it that way, we can certainly work to make that happen.
And I think I would, but I think I'd only like it if I had actual Excel sheets as opposed to PDF
Yep.
Excel sheets. That would be,
So I think your challenge is gonna be I assume the main reports can be exported to a CSV,
Yeah.
but the detailed files
Sounds like a lot of work.
are, with all of the printout are
It's
separate.
you're just talking like this simple sheet, right?
Yeah.
So
mainly that, but
that's not a big deal. It's just, Jody and I have always been reluctant to part with this outside of a PDF because we work so hard and like, I think we've done it before. Andrew asked for it when he was on and just, Andrew, please be mindful. It was our work. We're handing it off to you, whatever happens with it from there, that's coming from you, so of course I trust you, so.
It's a
we would-
several tab worksheet.
Yeah.
So you change one formula and, you know.
I've
it's
got one of
just-
those too.
Yeah.
It's not fun, I just,
So if you're looking for it, yes, but yeah, just
I
with
would
that
like one
caveat.
too. I was on my calculator as well,
Yeah.
so.
I had mixed, I like going through this like this, but then when I'm doing analysis, it
Yeah.
makes it much
That's-
easier.
Just run it all through ChatGPT, it works.
If you trust it.
So if you want to just ask, we'll send it to you, just. with
Maybe
that
next
extra
year.
caution,
I've got this
yeah,
and I,
yeah.
all right, so let's, we're good there for sake of time. Yeah, meeting minutes on here, but the minutes came out, but I didn't read them.
I didn't either.
So no one's offended if we push that off a week? Good. I'll take that motion.
Read your mind.
Anyone else want to second that? Doug?
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Still haven't gotten anyone to oppose it, a meeting to adjourn.
Nobody wants to
No.
stay overnight.
Thank you, everyone.